Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Now we have studied 1, 2, 3 and 4 chemical properties and some physical properties of acids and bases. Let's move on to understand, do these substances conduct electricity? If yes, then how and when do they not? We studied in the physical properties that these substances are electrolytes. That means they conduct electricity when in a solution with water. So for this we have an activity. We take a beaker, we add a solution to it. There are two cathodes and anodes attached to a cork, and then we connect it to a circuit with a bulb in it. Now we change the solution constantly. We try different forms of solution. This is an NCERT activity. We can try alcohol, we can try acids, we can try bases, and all this. After all the substances, what we will observe is that alcohol does not conduct electricity. Acids and bases conduct electricity in their aqueous form. So when a solution of say H2SO4 aqueous is put in this container, then the bulb will light. Same will happen when a solution of NaOH is kept in this container. Now why does this happen? This happens because for conduction of electricity, ions are needed. Ions are chemically charged particles which are part of a molecule, and ionization happens in the water solution of in solution with water of H2SO4 acids and also with bases. Acids, however, create an H plus ion and bases create an OH minus ion. They both have the other ions also, but acids have a lot more of H plus ions and bases have a lot more of OH minus ions. By the virtue of these ions is that they are able to conduct electricity. So if you take a distilled water, a glass of distilled water and try to conduct electricity through it, there will be no electricity. Why is that happening? Because there are no ions in the water, and that is why it is unable to conduct electricity. Now so far we have covered the physical properties of acids and bases. We have covered how do they react with metals, carbonates, hydrogen carbonates, oxides and with each other. After that we understood what is ionization. Now let's move on to understand further how does ionization happen. Making of solution in water. So what happens is when we take any substance and make it in solution with water, certain reaction happens with the water, which is not a chemical reaction, but it leads to the formation of ions. To understand this better, there's an activity in your books. You take a test tube, add NaCl to it, and dropwise add H2SO4, that is sulfuric acid. When we mix these two, we close it with a cork and then we put a tube at the end of it. If we put a dry litmus paper at the end, we see there is no change. So even though there is bubbling, even though bubbles of HCl are coming here, we cannot see it on the dry litmus paper. But once we make it moist, the litmus paper can detect the presence of HCl. This happens because HCl in its dry form, either solid or gaseous, will not be able to ionize, and that is why litmus paper will not be able to detect it, because litmus paper is detecting the ions of H+. How does this happen? Let's understand this. HCl reacts with H2O to form H3O plus ions and Cl minus ions. Now this is what is detected by the litmus paper. H3O plus ions are often also called as H plus aqueous ions. So aqueous means presence of water. So when H plus ions are present in the presence of water, they are called as H plus aqueous, but they actually imply that they exist in the form of H3O plus. This is the part which conducts electricity. H3O plus ions and Cl minus ions, the ions conduct electricity and they are able to conduct it only in the presence of water. This has been established by this activity. Now this what happens in bases is that when they are put in water, in the presence of water, they form Na plus and OH minus ions. These OH minus ions and these H3O plus ions, these are the ones which are responsible for the conduction of electricity. Now that you have understood these ionization processes, you will be better able to understand why is that acids and base reacts to form salts? It is because acids are present in form of H and X, where H is always present and X is another compound. Bases are of this type, and when they react, the M and the X come together to form the salt, and the H and the OH minus ions are left behind. They come here, H plus ion plus OH minus ion react to form water, that is H2O. So this is how this reaction happens, that acid reacts with base and forms salt and water. This water comes from the ions of H plus and OH minus combining together. That is all for the first part. We will cover other aspects in the next part.